By the last week of April 1945, the city of Berlin was no longer the proud capital of a mighty empire. It was a landscape of broken stone, fire, and death. For nearly 4 years, Nazi Germany had waged war across Europe, but now that war had come home. Soviet artillery thundered relentlessly, shaking the earth with each explosion. From the east, Marshal Zhukov's First Belarusian Front was pressing in, while from the south, Marshal Konev's First Ukrainian Front closed the Weiss. Berlin was encircled. The once bustling streets were choked with rubble. Trams lay derailed in twisted heaps. Apartment blocks stood gutted, their walls blackened by flame. Those civilians who remained lived in cellars, emerging only to search for water or bury the dead. Hunger gnawed at the city. The air smelled of dust, smoke, and unwashed fear. Beneath this dying city, in a reinforced concrete labyrinth 8 meters underground, Adolf Hitler lived out his last days. The Führerbunker, hidden behind the Reich Chancellery gardens, was his final refuge. The rooms were small, cramped, and dimly lit, with air that felt stale no matter how often the ventilation system ran. Outside its walls, the Third Reich was collapsing. But inside, Hitler clung to a world of maps, orders, and delusion. By mid-April, the bunker was a gathering place for the remnants of Hitler's closest circle. Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels and his wife Magda, Martin Bormann, Hitler's private secretary, General Wilhelm Burgdorf, Colonel Nicholas von Below, Hitler's Luftwaffe adjutant, Hitler's personal staff of aides, orderlies, and secretaries, and Eva Braun, the woman who had shared his private life for 14 years, but had never been publicly acknowledged as his wife. Life in the bunker followed a rigid, almost surreal routine. Mornings began late. Hitler would rise after midday, receive military briefings, and issue orders that could no longer be carried out. Meals were vegetarian, served in a small dining room. The Führer rarely stepped outside, and when he did, it was only for moments at a time. All the while, the muffled thunder of Soviet guns reminded everyone inside that their time was running out. On April 28th, a rumor reached the bunker that struck Hitler harder than even the artillery. Heinrich Himmler, his longtime lieutenant, had secretly attempted to negotiate surrender terms with the Western Allies. For Hitler, this was nothing short of treachery. Rage and betrayal boiled in his final political testament, which he began dictating to his secretary, Traudl Junge, that same day. In it, he expelled Himmler from the Nazi Party, denounced Hermann Göring, and named new leaders for a government that no longer existed. That night, Hitler made a decision that stunned even those who had lived closest to him. In the midst of destruction, he would marry Eva Braun. Eva had come to Berlin willingly in these final weeks, despite every opportunity to escape south to Bavaria. Her devotion was absolute. On the night of April 28th, in her small bunker bedroom, she prepared for the wedding with care. A black silk taffeta dress, shoes by Ferragamo, a diamond watch, and a gold bracelet set with pink tourmalines. Her brother-in-law had been executed only half an hour earlier on Hitler's orders, a grim reminder of the violence that still ruled these rooms. Yet Eva moved with quiet purpose. Shortly after 1 in the morning, Hitler and Eva emerged together into a small conference room. Joseph Goebbels and Martin Bormann stood as witnesses. The ceremony, performed by a minor party official named Walter Wagner, was Briel. The couple declared themselves of pure Aryan descent and free from hereditary disease. Gold rings stolen from murdered concentration camp prisoners were exchanged. In those cramped walls, under dim electric light, Eva Braun became Frau Hitler. There was little time to celebrate. A small reception followed tea, sandwiches, and champagne. Hitler, usually an abstainer, sipped a sweet Hungarian wine. Eva smiled as her new title was spoken aloud, for the first and last time. Even before the wedding, Hitler had been working on his political and personal testaments. The documents were a mixture of bitter accusation and historical revision, meant to justify his actions and condemn his perceived betrayers. Copies were prepared for dispatch, carried by couriers, who would try to escape the encircled city. Then came the final blow to his spirit. News that Benito Mussolini, Italy's fascist leader and Hitler's closest political ally, had been captured and executed by Italian partisans. His body and that of his mistress, Clara Petacci, were hung upside down in a Milan square, spat upon and beaten by crowds. Hitler swore he would never allow himself to be put on display in such a manner. The decision to end his life, already forming in his mind, became absolute. Preparations began. Hitler ordered his physician, Dr. Ludwig Stumpfegger, to test cyanide capsules on his beloved German shepherd, Blondie. The dog died instantly. The act deeply disturbed Hitler's animal-loving secretaries, but he considered it a necessary proof of the poison's effectiveness. His remaining dogs were shot. On April 30th, Hitler rose late. He ate a simple vegetarian lunch with his secretaries, pasta with a light sauce, and a salad. Conversation was subdued. Outside, Soviet forces were only a few hundred meters from the Reich Chancellery. At around 2 p.m., Hitler met with his military staff one last time. Orders were given for breakout attempts, though none could realistically succeed. He shook hands with those present, thanked them for their loyalty, and withdrew. Eva offered her fur coat to one of the women as a keepsake. Hitler's final public words were simple and without ceremony. "It is finished. Goodbye." Shortly after, a single gunshot rang out. When Linga and Günsche entered the private sitting room, they found Hitler slumped on a sofa, a pistol in his right hand, a bullet wound in his temple. Beside him, Eva Braun sat lifeless, her body showing no sign of violence. The cyanide had worked as intended. The bodies were wrapped in blankets and carried up the stairs to the garden behind the Reich Chancellery. The sky was gray, the air filled with the acrid scent of burning and cordite. They were placed in a shell crater, drenched with petrol, and set alight. Flames rose against the backdrop of collapsing Berlin. By nightfall, what little remained of the bodies was buried in the crater and covered with debris. When Soviet troops finally overran the area, they discovered the charred remains. Autopsies confirmed the identities through dental records, the only part of Hitler's body intact enough for verification. In the days that followed, the Nazi regime crumbled completely. On May the 2nd, Berlin surrendered. Within a week, Germany's unconditional surrender was signed, bringing the war in Europe to an end. The man who promised a 1,000-year Reich had ruled for only 12 years, and his empire lay in ruins. Thus ended the life of Adolf Hitler, not on a battlefield, not in a court of law, but in a hidden room beneath a city in flames. His last hours were marked not by glory, but by isolation, destruction, and death. What you think about his last hours of Hitler, comment me. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.